What if Padme exposed Anakin to the Jedi Council? Let's start the story in the second year of the Clone War. Anakin was away at war, and although he was fighting and saving the Republic and galaxy, Padme couldn't help but miss him. He was her husband, but she had barely seen him since they got married. She understood his commitment to the Jedi Order, but there were thousands of other Jedi out there all doing the same. She wanted Anakin at home, to be with him physically, instead of across the HoloNet. She thought at the start of the war, she could handle being apart for so long, but slowly, her resilience began to crack, as her days became longer, more stressful. One thing she needed to keep her sane was her husband, but he was halfway across the galaxy, fighting in battles that she didn't know if he would survive in. She had had enough, and decided that she had to get Anakin back with her on Coruscant. She spent days thinking about how she could do this, and only came up with one viable option. She had to expose Anakin to the Jedi Council, and through this, Padme believed the Council would put him under investigation, and therefore, Anakin would have to remain on Coruscant. She debated constantly in her mind whether she was doing the right thing, but decided that she had to be selfish. Anakin had just come back from war for the first time in months. He spent the afternoon with Padme and into the evening. But this is when Padme implemented her plan. She sent a distress call to the Jedi Order, something all senators were equipped to use under emergency situations. 2 knights came and entered the apartment to see Anakin Skywalker there on the couch, embracing with Senator Padme Amidala. They were shocked and asked Skywalker what he was doing there, but Anakin fumbled his words, not expecting this intrusion. He told them all he was simply meeting with Padme, but the Jedi didn't buy it, and they told Anakin they would be forced to report this to the Jedi Council. They did, and the following morning, Anakin was summoned in front of the Jedi Council. They asked Anakin directly what he was doing at Padme's apartment, if what the knights had said was in fact true. Anakin couldn't lie. The entire council could see through him and would know if he was. He told them the truth, that he and Padme have a relationship together and are in fact married. Murmurs scattered through the chamber, disappointment, anger, condemnment. Yoda called for Anakin to leave the chamber, saying that the council must discuss this. Anakin was called back 2 hours later after a long discussion. This is where Padme was wrong in her thinking. Mace Windu rose and told Anakin that the Jedi Council had come to a consensus. Due to him actively breaking the Jedi Code, he is to be removed from the Jedi Order. Anakin couldn't believe it, and Obi-Wan couldn't look him in the eye. There were too many dogmatic and old-fashioned masters on the council. After hours of debate, they put it to a vote. 7 in favor of Anakin being kicked out, 5 in favor of him being allowed to remain. Anakin turned and walked out, knowing that to argue would be pointless. Anakin went home furious. Padme didn't expect this. She never thought they would kick him out of the Order. Obi-Wan came over later that day with Ahsoka and explained to Anakin that he believes this will only be temporary, that the council will come to their senses and invite him back into the Order. The next day, a huge article is released on the HoloNet, exposing Anakin being kicked out of the Jedi Order due to his relationship with Padme. This was big news on the HoloNet, and Padme was questioned furiously by the media on her way to the Senate the following day. Padme apologized to Anakin, telling him she's sorry that the Jedi kicked him out of the Order, that he deserved better. But Anakin told Padme that maybe this was in fact a good thing, that he can now act freely, and they no longer have to hide their relationship from anyone. This made Padme feel good, as this is exactly what she had wanted. She felt bad that Anakin had been kicked out of the Order, but maybe he was right. Maybe this would be a good thing. Padme tells Anakin that for the time being, he can work as part of her personal security, and therefore they can spend every day together. Anakin accepts, and they do this for weeks, and Anakin travels with Padme as she does dealings across Coruscant and all over the galaxy. Padme had Anakin where she wanted, by her side, and together they had the most fun they had had in years. They were both completely fulfilled, their love for each other stronger than anything else in their lives. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan was unable to change the minds of the Jedi Council. Windu was the most stubborn, explaining that to reverse their decision now would show weakness, and only motivate others in the Order to commit the same treason of the Jedi Code. However, reports started coming in that the Clone War was not going so well for the Republic. They were losing more battles, less worlds joining their cause, and rather, going over to the Separatists. The Senate was getting worried, and Anakin and Padme talked about this. Anakin told Padme that he feels guilty, sitting down and not doing anything, that he feels an obligation to the people of the galaxy to act with the power that he has, and feels this is his purpose, and he wants to go out there and help, but not as a Jedi, as a keeper of the peace and soldier of the Republic. As much as Padme doesn't want him to go, but she knows Anakin has to do this, or it will always be in the back of his mind. But they make an agreement. He won't be away for months at a time, and maximum a few weeks. Anakin goes to Palpatine to help facilitate this, and of course, he helps Anakin, granting him his old rank of general, and he's given a section of clones to lead. Once again, Anakin starts fighting for the Republic around the galaxy. Anakin was the hero of the Clone War, and the Republic needed him. But he only fights for weeks at a time, with larger breaks in between to be with his wife on Coruscant. However, this is exactly what Palpatine had wanted. Padme reporting Anakin to the Jedi Council had put a twist in his plans. However, he would adjust and use this to facilitate him turning to the dark side, and therefore, Palpatine specifically tipped the tide of the war in favor of the Separatists, so that Anakin would feel obliged to fight once again. He wanted Anakin to be surrounded by death, tragedy and loss, the sentiment of the dark side, but most importantly, he wanted to separate Anakin and Padme. One time when Anakin was away fighting, Padme went on a trip to Onderon in an attempt to bring their world back to the Republic. She was successful, and on the way back, their ship was attacked and every senator on board was killed except for Padme. She was captured and taken away under Palpatine's orders. Shortly after, the Republic received demands, 500 million credits for the senator's life. After word of this reached Coruscant, Anakin was contacted, who left the battle immediately to come back to the capital. He is distraught and goes to Palpatine, asking for his help. He can't lose Padme. He cannot live without her. He never should have returned to the battlefield and should have accompanied her to Onderon. That maybe if he was there, she wouldn't have been captured and have her life in danger. Palpatine tells Anakin that he can help him, that now, because he's no longer under the constraints of the Jedi Code, he can do what he must to get Padme back. Anakin knows he must find her and is willing to do anything. He tells Palpatine this, who nods, agreeing that he knows Anakin will have to, that the assassins and bounty hunters that have captured her are nasty. They have a notorious reputation and Anakin must find her fast. But he tells Anakin that not all hope is lost. They have a lead. The assassins made a mistake. When they sent through their demands, their communication channel wasn't completely firewall proof. There was a glitch in the code, and thus they made it traceable, specifically to a small, uninhabited moon in the Myco system. Palpatine tells Anakin he will find Padme there. He hasn't told the Jedi yet, or anyone, and wanted to give Anakin the opportunity he needs to save her, because he believes he's the only one capable of doing what needs to be done. Anakin leaves, and Palpatine is happy with the sequence of events. He knew he had hired the right assassins, and they would give Anakin trouble. There's no way he'd be able to save Padme without doing things the Jedi would look upon with horror. Anakin exited hyperspace at the Myco system to head straight towards Shadow Spawn Moon. The signal was growing stronger, and Anakin landed his ship 20 kilometers away, so that he would be untraceable. He ran through the jungle terrain at immense speeds, only taking him 20 minutes as he got to the base of the mountain where the beacon was located. Atop the mountain, there was a stone temple, no doubt where Padme was being kept. He saw many assassins outside, guarding the temple, and knew he would have to take them out first. He acted with intent. He used the Force to jump the first 20 meters behind one of the guards. He snatched him from behind, broke his jaw with his hands, and threw him off the cliff, not making a noise. He jumped a further 20 meters to the next in an instant, before she could notice the first one missing. Anakin gripped her with the Force and pulled her off the cliff to the same fate as her colleague. 2 down, 2 to go. Anakin decided to ignite his lightsaber and threw it at the next, hitting him directly in the chest. The last of the guards outside noticed and pressed the warning button on his wrist, and sirens started blaring. Anakin jumped at him, recalling his saber through the Force, and went to cut him down. But the assassin pulled out a Beskar knife and blocked, but Anakin with his other hand. He gripped the assassin's throat with the Force, closing it and bringing him to his death. Anakin looked at the entrance. No doubt everyone inside now knew they were under attack. Anakin thrust his saber through the stone door and felt it pierce the other side. He carved a circular hole and pushed his way forward, casting a force shield to block the incoming fire. He dashed to cover, using the force, and assessed the situation. He could sense 8 attackers, all wanting to take him out, but he wouldn't let them. He couldn't, not for Padme. Anakin pokes his head around the corner to get a look at the first assassin as a bullet hits the wall right where his head is. He used the smoke as a distraction and swung his saber, deflecting 2 bolts back into 2 attackers before they could even move. Anakin didn't wait. He reached out with the force and yanked one from behind a pillar. The assassin screamed as he flew through the air. Anakin ignited his lightsaber mid-flight, cutting him clean in half before the body hit the ground. Another rushed from behind with an electro staff. Anakin caught the weapon with one hand and clenched his other into a fist. The assassin's neck snapped with a crack as the staff clattered to the ground. The remaining 4 regrouped deeper inside the temple, forming a line. They opened fire once again, blasters scorching the stone around him. Anakin lifted both hands, the bolts freezing mid-air, and with a twist of his wrist, they shot back into their owners. The sound of impact echoed like thunder, and now there were only 2 left. They tried to run, knowing all hope was lost, as Anakin hurled his saber, slicing one down the middle. The assassin dropped his saber and begged for his life, but Anakin walked slowly towards him, eyes dark and chest heaving. He demanded to know where she is. Where is his wife? The assassin stumbled out the answer, stating, "She's below in the underground chamber." But before he could finish his sentence, Anakin's grip tightened, and the assassin's body convulsed as the force crushed his windpipe. He looked around the temple, littered with bodies and smoke. His breathing was heavy, unsteady. He deactivated the blade, but the rage still pulsed through his veins. For the first time, the dark side didn't feel wrong, it felt powerful. And he turned towards the stairway, leading deeper into the temple. A voice seemed to whisper in the back of his mind, "Good Anakin, good. Let your anger give you strength." Anakin ran down the stairs until he reached the chamber where his wife supposedly was. But he was worried he couldn't sense her presence. And he realized why when he entered. Padme lay on the ground, having succumbed to her injuries. Anakin rushed over and hugged her, begging her to come back to life, and he unleashed an almighty scream of rage through the Force. He failed. He had let his wife die. How could he let this happen? Tears flowed from his eyes as he laid there in silence. Anakin picks up her body and walks out, but a beep on the computer console outside gets his attention. He clicked on it, wondering if this will lead him to find who ordered Padme's capture. And what popped up was the last thing Anakin expected. As he clicked on it, a video of Mace Windu appeared, telling the assassins what the job was: to find and capture Senator Padme Amidala for a price of 2 million credits. Anakin's eyes went wide. The Jedi did this. The Jedi ordered her capture. Little did Anakin know, this was a doctored video, sent to the assassins by Palpatine himself. Anakin contacted Palpatine at that moment. He told the Chancellor that he had been successful in taking out the assassins, but it was too late. They had already killed Padme. Palpatine held back his smile as Anakin continued, telling him about the video of Mace Windu. He told Anakin to save the video, to bring it back to Coruscant, and together they will make the Jedi pay. Anakin does this, and he brings Padme's body back to Coruscant. He met up with Palpatine straight after to give him the video. Anakin was still distraught, and Palpatine helped to confront him. But in his time in taking out the assassins, Anakin did things that no Jedi would, which opened him up to the dark side. He used it to try and save Padme. He had no other choice, and Palpatine knew this would be the case. Palpatine told Anakin that he must have his revenge on the Jedi. Their treason on Senator Padme will only be the beginning. Anakin asked Palpatine what he means, who tells Skywalker. He believes the Jedi will try to take over the Republic, as they are becoming more and more opposed to what he's doing in the Senate. Anakin stays silent as Palpatine continues, telling Anakin he will have his revenge and the Jedi must pay, but currently he's not strong enough. He goads Anakin, telling Skywalker that he must have felt it, the dark side, when he attempted to save Padme, the hints of power it could give him. This confused Anakin. How could Palpatine know what the Force felt like? Palpatine looked at Anakin directly, more clearly than he ever has in his life, as he reveals himself to Skywalker, telling Anakin that he is the Sith Lord Darth Sidious and the only one who can help him get his revenge on Padme. Anakin paused. Previously, he would have rejected Palpatine here, but after all he had been through, the loss of Padme, discovering it was the Jedi who ordered her capture, he had nothing left but his friendship with the Chancellor and desire for revenge. Anakin knelt in front of Palpatine, giving himself over to his teachings and to become his new apprentice. Over the following weeks, Anakin and Palpatine planned their revenge. Anakin's itching on the edge of his seat to make the Jedi pay. The funeral of Padme came and passed, but Anakin couldn't bear it. The pain was too much. Palpatine starts teaching Anakin about the dark side. He channeled his anger, fear, and hatred into strength and learned to control it. He learned dark side techniques, Sith lightning, deadly sight, and the subtleties of Sith alchemy. The dark side came easily to Anakin, and his power soared to an entire new level, powered by his hatred for the Jedi and the pain of losing Padme. The day had come where Palpatine was happy with the power Anakin had achieved. They sat in his office as they made the declaration. Order 66, as clones turned against the Jedi and stormed the temple, led by Anakin and Palpatine. Together they were carving their way through the Jedi, taking out knights, Padawans and younglings alike. They faced some challenges, including members of the Jedi Council, Saisi Tin, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Windu and Yoda, but together Palpatine and Anakin were an unstoppable force, powered by the dark side and backed by the clones. They took them out one by one. Nothing could stop them. The temple was completely sacked, and Anakin personally captured Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, and ordered the clones to take them safely to a prison cell, hoping to turn them to his side later on, after he revealed the truth to them. After this, Palpatine went to the Senate and declared himself and Anakin the leaders of the new empire, whilst Anakin was sent to kill the separatist leaders hiding on Geonosis. The war was over. Palpatine had won, and the Jedi had been defeated. The Sith were victorious, and Anakin was now completely consumed by the dark side. Who was to blame here? Was it Anakin's ignorance, trusting Palpatine so easily, or the Jedi Council, specifically Mace Windu, rejecting Anakin for his attachment to Padme? Let me know in the comments below.